So Brett Veach's very first selection as an NFL GM not shake out the way he wanted it to. Believe he traded up, correct?
Yes, I didn't really put that in my article, but he did trade up a few spots to get him.
At 46 overall, Brett Veach, with his very first selection as general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, selects Breeland Speaks, who played a total of 1 year and 476 defensive snaps for the Kansas City Chiefs. If you're listening the audio version of this podcast, Mark just put his hands on top of his head and put his head down. So that's kind of I think the general mood when we talk about Breeland Speaks. Kansas
And
City, Kansas City, the organization and the Chiefs fans wanted Breeland Speaks to be more than he was. That's all I'll say.
well, I should have done a little bit more research when I was before we started talking, but I remember there was a guy that I wanted the Chiefs to take, and when they traded up, I was like, all right, we're gonna maybe get my guy, and then it went Breeland Speaks, who I didn't even think would be like drafted before the third or maybe fourth
Yeah.
round, and so I mean I don't think I know more than Brett Veach, so I wasn't gonna question the man, but it was just kind of took me off guard. And I mean, they thought Speaks was going to be this guy that could be outside linebacker. And then they switched defenses when Spags came in. And at that point, it was just like, yeah, he's gone.
So I pulled up the 2018 draft, just for fun to kind of look at, who else was taken after Breeland Speaks. One pick after Christian Kirk. Um, that doesn't feel very good. We were talking before the podcast. This was all defensive players.
Hmm.
So, I mean, the Chiefs didn't go a lot. They didn't do any offensive players. Dallas Goedert also went 2 picks after Anthony Miller to the Bears, just a little bit after too. So, um, some
Who
some
was the
guys still on the
defensive
board.
player? Who was some defensive players right around there after?
Um, let's see here. So Uchenna Nwosu, the linebacker from USC, he went just 2 picks after Breeland Speaks did there. Another defensive end, Kamoko Toure from Rutgers, went to the Colts. Trying to see some more edges that went. Tyquan Lewis, another edge.
Lewis.
Chad Thomas in the third round, but Fred Warner went in the third round. Warner went in the third round to the San Francisco 49ers. So there were some good defensive guys that the Chiefs ended up trading up, and they did get another defensive guy, obviously, because this is an all defensive draft, but they got a defensive lineman and Derek Nottie, who I think is the most productive player out of this draft. I don't think that's really up for debate because if you look at like just the snap counts, because before the podcast I went and I wrote down all the snap counts. I was just curious. See,
Yeah.
okay, how many snap counts have these guys played? He's played over 1,100 more snaps than anybody else in this draft. Breeland Speaks is the second most at 476, which doesn't indicate very good things for this draft, right?
Yeah.
Um, Derek Nottie's played for 3 years, 1,506, 1,506 snaps for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's just on defense. That's not counting special teams. That's what my snap numbers are counting, or special or defense, not special teams, because some of these guys were special teams players,
Yeah.
but I don't think you draft for just special teams players. So Derek Notty's been a good piece on this defense, been a good rotational player. He's going to come up for contract. I know we've talked about Derek Notty a little bit, but I don't hate the Derek Notty pick here at 75. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think just from what he's given you there, kind of what you expected him to give you, kind of like what you said, like that rotational piece,
Mhm.
and a guy that can come in and even start if you need him to. And so that's why I wouldn't call him a dud, but I mean, he's not like a top tier stud, but
No,
I would put him more of a stud than a dud.
right. I guess we forgot to say if Breland Speaks was a stud or a dud, but I think that kind of goes without saying.
Dud.
Yeah, burp, burp, the little sound effect there. Maybe I need to get the little dud sound effect of a trombone, sad trombone. Um, another guy the Chiefs selected in the third round. I agree right with you about Derek Notty. He's not really a stud, but he's not a dud. He's more leaning towards stud, but I wouldn't say that he was certainly a steal. I think he
Yeah.
was drafted about where he should go, and I think he's performed to his draft level. So that's really all you ask for, right? Just perform to the level that we expect you to perform at. And in the
Hmm.
third round, the Chiefs took a pick 100, Dorian O'Daniel. There's a lot of people that are pounding the table for Dorian O'Daniel to get some playing time. Must be something going on there in terms of injuries or something. He's been on the team for 3 years, has only played 317 defensive snaps. So, Mark, what are your thoughts on DOD?
I was excited about the pick actually when it happened in real time. I thought that he was a linebacker that can, be one of those guys that covers the tight end, cover the running back, which is what the Chiefs have really been looking for since they drafted him. So
Right.
it's like, why hasn't he been able to turn the page and like get into that role? So I don't really know what's going on with the guy, but unfortunately, so far in my book, he's been a dud.